Call the meeting to order. Tuesday, November 29th, regular meeting, 7 p.m. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would, before we do public announcements, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take a moment of silence for Mary Lou and Robert Sutter, as well as Margaret, Bonnie, and Dave. Thank you. Before we go into public announcements, it's with deep sadness and regret that we've lost some of our Hanson family members, and I'd like to read some of the contributions that they've done over the course of their lives for our town. Miss Mary Lou Sutter, who I recently, and her husband Robert, I recently got to kind of know them, was appointed to the Arts Lottery Council from 1992 to 1999, appointed to the Capital Improvement Committee from 1994 to present, appointed to the Council for Elder Affairs 2000 to 2002 and 2005 to 2008, appointed to the Senior Center Feasibility Study Committee in 2001, and she was elected to the Water Commissioner in 2003 and recently resigned in 2016. Mr. Robert Sutter, appointed to the Finance Committee from 1994 to 1998, appointed to the Zoning Bylaw Committee in 2003, appointed to the Government Study Committee in 2004 to 2006, and appointed to the Plymouth County Hospital Utilization Committee 2006 to 2010. It's with deep regret that we've lost some of our Hanson folk, and these people served. I'm overwhelmed with the amount of loss I feel that this town has encountered due to the Sutters, and I think Bruce wants to say
Just
something.
one that you missed for Mary Lou, which was an important one. She was actually on the new town hall building committee. You'll see her name in the plaque down on the plaque down in the foyer down there. The building that you're in right now. She was a member of that committee that helped put on the new wing.
They also put in the doors. They contributed
renovate the original town hall.
And they also contributed a financial sum for the doors here, make them handicapped accessible, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yes, that's true.
You know, I remember that distinctly and thanking them. They'll both be sorely missed. I recently noticed, too, that they didn't make the last town meeting that we were at. So we wish them well, and I think they're in a better place, hopefully. In addition, I would like to say some words for Ms. Margaret Bonnie, was employed as a secretary at the Indian Head School in Hanson for 30 years, and in the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District for 10 years. Dave Bonnie served on the Housing Authority for several years, served as the building inspector, and was a member of the Zoning Bylaw Committee. Two more people who will be more than missed by our town. These folks had a great commitment to our town, to making sure that it was better than when they arrived, and all of them will be sorely missed. Okay. Moving on to public announcements. Forgive me. The Hanson Community Christmas is accepting applications until November 30th, 2016. Applications are available at Town Hall and online at www.hanson-ma.gov. Monetary donations are always accepted at the Hanson Community Christmas, P.O. Box 163, Hanson, Mass. 02341. For more information, please email www.hansoncommunitychristmas, all one word, @gmail.com, or call Jenna Gomes at 781-718-0891. The annual tree lighting will take place on Saturday, December 17th, from 5 to 7 p.m. Santa will be on hand to assist the lighting of the tree. Local restaurants will be offering sample of their fare. A fireworks display will cap off the evening. Upcoming meetings, we have the final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee on Wednesday, November 30th, 4 p.m. at the police station. The Cultural Council, Wednesday, November 30th at 6:30 p.m. Parks and Fields, Wednesday, December 7th at 7 p.m. The Selectmen have a meeting on Tuesday, December 13th. That'll be the final one before the end of the year, unless anything else possibly comes up. And that's at 7 p.m., Town Hall. The Historical Commission has Wednesday, December 14th at 7 p.m. And actually, I stand corrected, right? The Selectmen do have a Tuesday, December 20th meeting.
If needed.
If needed, at 7 p.m. Okay. And that wraps up our announcements for today.
Just one change, Parks and Fields, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Parks and Fields meeting is gonna be canceled on December 7th, and we're gonna reschedule it for December 19th.
Very good. Thank you, Kenny. Mr. Hayes,
One of the things, Mr. Chairman, I was,
talking about?
but one of the other things for the annual tree lighting, just so the general population of Hanson will know, the Hanson Fire Department will have Santa Claus making their annual route around town on that very same day, and then it ends here at the town hall that evening.
Right.
Also, that committee is selling buttons. We had a young man at Hanson Middle, we had a contest and he won it, so we designed the buttons after his design. I believe that they're being sold around town in many different places. They're $5 each. They will be sold the night of the event. I know that Mr. Amico is going to be selling this Saturday at the Indian Head School for you. And I know that Stitch in Time and I believe a bunch of different businesses in the town will also be selling those buttons to help fund the fireworks for the evening. And it's usually a very well attended. Hope the weather cooperates as we always do, but I just thought I'd throw that in because that's a big thing for the families, the Santa coming around in the fire truck
It
there.
is. A lot of the kids stand out on the road and wave for their parents.
It's a great
I've seen a lot of people on my street. and
Great.
It is. And we appreciate that, Bob. Honestly, we do. I know it's,
Well, it's a
a lot of
committee, they
work.
work hard.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Into Mr. Miko as chair and so forth, so.
Thank you.
With that, I'm gonna move on, but if anybody wouldn't mind, I'd like to take out of order old business first and bring Mr. Bob Hayes into our discussions. And Bob, would you mind? That would
Oh, no,
allow
thank
to
you.
Update on the MSB and,
We had a relatively impromptu meeting with two members from MSBA, one who's the assistant director, Diane Sullivan, and the other gentleman's name is Chris, and I can't recall his last name because I don't have the notes with me. But they came and they visited McQuon School. They were in the area visiting another school, and they wanted to make it very clear because discussions have come up in the past about failed projects. And the MSBA does not, people were worried that because we had a failed the last vote didn't pass, that we wouldn't be considered again. Every single year, it's a clean slate. They're very, very used to towns, many towns, coming forward 4 or 5 times even, as projects change, as town needs change. So they don't look at anything as a failed project. They look at it as need. And certain, like another town, for instance, they use, for example, and I'll leave the name out, they have a school that's closed, physically had to be closed. So they've shifted the students into other buildings. That is probably a little bit different need than some of the other towns.
right,
They have another town, and I believe it's in the western part of the state, and they have a similar situation. So they really look at it as need. It doesn't mean that your building doesn't, make qualification for it. It means that there's 351 communities, and as towns apply for the money, because 1 cent of every 6.25 that you pay in state sales tax goes to the MSBA, Mass School Building Assistance Program. So they came to McQuon and we took another tour. We gave them another tour of the building, they looked it over again. They said, we're in the SKU, we're probably gonna know within the next 30 days for this year, because every year you have to put another application in if you have a statement of intent. to do these types of projects. Part of what was put in at the very time, as you know, I came to you all, and it was an addition onto middle school.
Mhm.
And that may house some of the students, the younger students, and then we could jockey some out of McQuon and into Indian Head, and maybe just table that building for another reuse at another time, or the town, or whatever happens to come up.
Mhm.
But that was one of the things that was in the statement of interest. And a lot of other things were kicked around, but it was all about the process and how you go through the process. Could we use some of the old building plans? Could we have used some of the plans that McQuon had had before? So they came down and they took another look. They were very happy. They went over all of the maintenance on the building. We showed them what we're doing. They took a look at Indian Head briefly about the roof project. You know, they see that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
So they just wanted to reaffirm to all of us that we're in the queue. If it doesn't happen this year, continue on.
Right,
Nobody's being prejudiced because it didn't happen for us,
right.
and we kind of move forward. It was a 45-minute to an hour conversation with the tour, and, you know, they walked around the building and took a look at what we'd done to the new bathrooms. We had the failure in the ceiling for upstairs from the old bathroom, the pipe rotted out, and different things that had happened, from the oil burners to, you know, the different bones of that building. And we took them through and showed them everything that we could show them.
Sure.
So it was a good meeting. In fact, the parking lot, to report for the parking lot has been fixed at McQuon. Going into the next thing, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sure.
Because it has two things with the McQuon Group project. That is all out to bid. That's going to come to an end. We're going to be coming to you, I'll be reporting to you probably at your next meeting, and we'll be voting on who we should accept for the bid and how much it's going to be.
Mhm.
That was rebid. So that's all in play right now.
Okay.
The main roof over the cafeteria, so to speak, and for people watching that don't know, the cafeteria and the gym kind of share the same roof on that building, has been completely replaced.
Yeah.
The repairs were repairs that we found upon doing that project that needed to be added to the roof project to kind of bind up the other roof, and I believe it was in the $70,000 or $80,000 range. I think 77,000 was the figure. 78,000.
Yeah.
There was a chimney issue, there was, there's a door, a skate door that you would go out of on the gym roof to get out, that's all deteriorated, and the sash around the door, there's some pads, so when you walk on the roof, because rubber roofs are membrane,
Mhm.
that you're not walking all over the roof, you know, to make that last, because even if you had a building project
Mhm.
at that building, you're 5 years out.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely 5 years out. So all of these things are being done to keep a controlled finger on that school to make sure that we're in a good place and that the students are safe and sound and dry and warm and all sorts of stuff.
Right.
So that's pretty much where we are. The parking lot is done.
Yeah.
The do not enter signs on one end have been up for a long time, since before the last elections. So that makes it a little bit safer environment there. Other than that, we're moving right along now. We had Thanksgiving break, and now we'll be heading into December.
Yeah.
And I will be coming to your next meeting, asking to be put on the agenda to report to you about the bids.
Okay.
And let you know where we're at, and try to keep everybody in the loop. If there's any question you have about anything to do with the school district, I'm here, shoot.
Thank you, Bob, I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
I know that Ernie made sure to say thank you to the board on the parking lot. He was really pleased in how it was fixed. And it does look better than what it was, a lot of the holes level and so forth. So the roof is an absolute positive, great thing to have fixed, especially the way it was leaking in the gym. No more do we have to worry about that. And I know, big difference from probably when I started out talking about things, I've seen a big changes in our school, and especially McQuon. I think that Principal Wilcox
Yes,
went to
we have a new principal.
yeah, I have a new principal, and she actually painted one of the floors, or had them painted or something like that. And
Some of the walls, when new principals come in, it's the old story of the new broom sweeps clean, so to
Yeah.
speak. Those walls be like this color, and it's pretty cheery.
Cherry,
As
yeah.
you've probably seen, Jimmy, who wears sunglasses a couple of
Yeah, they
times.
were,
But it's cheery and it's nice, I mean,
it's a kid thing,
yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's good for students, it's good for staff.
And we saw new faucets, were they fairly new faucets in the bathrooms too? I
Yes.
think we saw, right, so my point is that it's being kept up, and,
Yes.
and,
Yes, it is.
and I think that's terrific, honestly, I do, so.
And while we're discussing that, there was some discussion as to whether, with all the discoloration of the water and lead,
Yeah,
and we have had all the waters tested, we had one
one bubbler,
bubbler
yeah,
replaced at Indian Head that had some old piping in it, and that's been done,
great,
and the water has been tested, sent out to an independent firm and tested. So we're all good there.
excellent,
Somehow, I'm not a water guy, but I know that they test it, and also they do air quality tests, especially before the buildings are being closed up.
Yep.
We do air quality tests also, because we've had air handlers that would be somewhat in failure, and you're not getting the right amount of oxygen or whatever that you need into the building, so that's being done too.
great.
And we just finished a fabulous football season.
Yeah, that's right, I saw it in the
21 to
paper.
nothing at halftime,
Did a
Abington.
great job on.
I know, I heard the comeback.
Yeah.
It was 29-28.
Yeah, that was
It
terrific.
was a fabulous game. So it was a great day in the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District, and we had a tremendous amount of people up there, and not just football. The Walk of Champions, they did a wonderful job getting it done, and things are going well.
That's
So,
terrific.
and basketball season's starting up. Anyone that wants to come to the game, we'd be more than happy to have everyone. Participation is wonderful, and it's a good thing. It's a nice night out.
I could hear the roar from my house on the comeback, so well done to the football team on that one, yeah. That's terrific, and I saw the new, I don't want to get too far off the subject, but we're talking about schools, the new tennis courts too. They've been done
Tennis
over at the high
courts?
school.
Have been redone. They're going to do the finish. As you know, the final coat of asphalt needs to be put on when it's warmer,
Mhm.
and then they'll be painting and finishing up and putting up the lights, and
All the rest.
we'll be ready for spring.
Terrific. Thank you, Bob, very
Thank you.
much. And if you
Thank you,
pass out.
and again, I know that I'll be ready for your December meeting.
Quick question.
Absolutely.
Well, once the bids are in and you select the contractor, when will that work start?
As soon as we get the bids getting and we select the contractor, some of that work, we have spoken with the principal, and weather permitting,
Hmm.
we can do some of that work during the day.
Okay.
It was the.
So we don't
plan.
have to wait until
Yeah,
summertime?
no,
Okay.
we're gonna try to get right to it, we're gonna try to do it. It's a minimal job, and we don't think it's gonna be intrusive to the students
Yeah.
being done during the
Right.
day. It's not a long, drawn-out affair. Like we said, the last bid, I think, was somewhere in the $78,000 area. And, so. we're
We might
thinking-
get some 50-degree days in December, I'm hearing, next week.
I'm praying we do.
Absolutely, yeah. So that would be,
Everything right now is intact, it's just we don't want any horrific leaks or anything in the middle of the winter, because it's much more difficult to do with the snow on the roof.
right.
Good, excellent, thanks, Bob.
Good question, Kenny. Anybody else? Just please pass on our thanks, Bob.
you're
Sincere
welcome.
thanks to
Thank you,
to Ernie, the school committee, Christine, the whole gang
I will.
over there. Thank you for,
thank you.
all right, moving on to the next item I have on our agenda is the discussion of town possession properties on Lakeside Road and Brook Street. This was actually a request by the Conservation Commission member Phil Clements, and I know Phil isn't here, but I believe it was on waterfront property. Why don't we put this to could we table it? I'll be honest with you, I talked a little bit about this with him, and what our concerns with is that the loss of waterfront property and the access to some of these areas by the public. For example, guys, there was a lot at the end of Arlene Street, and it provided access to people to Oldham Pond at the end right there. And a lot of the kids, I'm told, some of the neighbors were telling me for over 40 years that they would bring their kayaks or bring their canoes down and access that beach property.
But it was privately owned.
But it was privately owned, and unfortunately for us,
Graziano's right at the end of
Arlene Street, yeah.
Arlene Street.
Yeah.
Has the
Unfortunately,
town taken that yet?
no, the problem was, we weren't, Mike, if I'm correctly, we weren't notified of the sale, really.
No, and actually, we would not have really been in standing in terms of the sale because
Purchase?
it wasn't 61, under any sort of 61 protections that we would have had right of first refusal. It was, a private sale. I think
It was
what
private.
we looked at in response to some of the concerns of the neighbors that were accessing it, as the chairman mentioned, was, whether or not there was adverse possession because of the use. After 20-some-odd years or so, you can claim adverse possession. But there had been, we looked into it, and there had been certain things that the property owner at the time had done that basically obfuscated the potentially adverse possession. They had put up signs and, some of the minimal things, but they had retained their standing. So good, bad, or indifferent, it was owned by a private citizen, and they.
It was, you're right,
They
and,
did what they did.
and that's important to say, that this was privately owned property. I really wish the town had an opportunity to be able to purchase it.
It's small, they can't build or anything on it.
No.
I think there's an easement that goes through there because there's a drain pipe that goes right from the left-hand side of Arlene Street,
Yeah,
right through the property, right down to the pond.
into the pond, yeah.
Uh,
Okay, well, I'll talk to them about an easement to check for it, but what I can tell you is the reason why these properties are on the agenda for
I've been
tonight.
following that, and I didn't realize that it was going up for sale, because I know
It was purchased.
Graziano Incorporated owned it,
Yeah,
out of Braintree.
really, yeah.
And that was one of the areas that I thought could be a filter system put at the end of it, because that's where the drain, there's 4 catch basins that go into that pipe that goes into the pond.
Okay,
Under the Watershed Act, it's something that possibly a filter drainage system could be put in that lot to go into the pond, so I didn't know it was going up for sale.
yeah.
I thought the town was taking it for taxes.
No, we did not. Taxes were paid on it. It's a privately
Oh,
owned
they
lot.
paid them again?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing it
So
for their taxes.
I think it's a loss on our side, but apparently even Mike says that even if it was up, I don't think I would have done everything I could have to try to have
Because I
gotten it.
know most of the neighbors don't want it to be used for anything because it's a mess down there.
Yeah,
And people from out of town were coming in and launching boats in there.
that's right. Yeah.
Because Oldham has they can't put any of those skidoos in the water.
Oh,
in
okay,
Pembroke.
jet skis and stuff,
And they
yeah.
were coming in Hanson and putting them in, and Pembroke's upset about it.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I feel bad for the folks around that area whose kids would just go down there, because they got a small dock out there too. I saw
Well, there
it.
shouldn't be.
Okay, maybe, well, they were fishing out there, some
Isn't there a
kids
town beach
stuff,
down there?
so.
Isn't there a beach down there?
There was a beach
There's
property on there,
beach.
yeah. There was a
There's
bunch of
access to the people in that area.
swans and, yeah.
Yeah,
it
but
was-
it's not, it's all private property, and never been, should
Right.
not been used for a beach.
So the point is, using that as an example, we didn't want to lose the town possession on the properties of Lakeside Road and Brook Street. So I apologize, I should have, I put it on myself, I should have called Phil Clemens and reminded him to come to tonight's meeting to speak to this issue, so I would ask,
How big a lot is that, do you know?
I don't have the
It's not
details
big enough for a
There's-
house.
you
because
should
can't-
On
You
the-
can't build on it.
On your
on your iPad.
iPads, there should be I think it's an item, maybe a 3A.
Is it 3A?
Or something like
It's
that.
the
It says-
field
It will say
cards, right?
field cards.
Yeah, yeah.
The property at Lakeside was privately owned. It wasn't property that other people could go and access. So it's not like it's taking waterfront property away from people who've already had access to it. It belonged to the parcel that's also on there, which was across the street, which has a house on it.
Yeah.
So there is a good value to that property that
think
people
so,
will
yeah.
want to buy. And if the town's intent is to get some funds for the properties, that would be the number one, or the two parcels, sold them together. Because a lot of the residents down there would be willing to buy it and buy the house or
Oh, okay.
whatever. The house will obviously have to come down. We've already,
On the property that's in question?
Yeah, that makes.
we're now
the
on
property
we're
that-
now on Lakeside Road. We're not
Yeah.
on Arlene Street. We're on
It's the
Lakeside
middle
Road
of the
now.
Oh, you're on, okay, all right.
It's
Yeah.
actually
The guy that-
261
The
Lakeside.
property across the street has pond access to owns the
Correct.
property.
It runs right across the
That makes
street, and
sense, yeah,
it's that property.
That makes that
That's
whole-
two separate
those two
properties, but it's
parcels.
owned
Keep
by
those
the
two
same.
together.
Yeah, that much.
So we
more
want to
valuable.
sell them
Yeah.
Yeah, you
together.
wouldn't
Yeah.
want to let the town, have the town
And
take that over.
And like Mary said, it's not like they're using it now to get in, it's private
Yeah,
property.
And I think it's important to, basically back up what Mary just said, that, in consideration, and certainly the board should take into consideration what the chairman of the Concom wishes to discuss. However, on the other side of the equation, that probably is the most valuable piece of property that we're proposing to put out to bid, to put out to auction. So, that's the sort of consideration I think that the board needs to look at.
You're right, so the two locations are 0 Lakeside Road, right? And the other one is 261 Lakeside Road.
Yeah, they're right across from each
Right
other.
across from each other, but
Yep.
I would ask that perhaps we should, if we could, if you guys would be willing, to wait, and could we hold off until the next meeting and allow Mr. Clemens to come and speak to it and talk about maybe some of the wildlife or some of the, some of the reasons why he thought we should try to save it or not. And maybe just out of respect for him and obviously the Conservation Commission, at least give them a chance to say their piece. Would you guys be okay with that?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, one quick question. Is the Erner family, or were they part owner or owner? I know they own the Cranberry Bogs on the right side.
They did not own these parcels.
They do not, oh, they don't, okay.
They didn't, no,
Because
they
I know
did
their
not.
property, some of it was probably under 61A agricultural exemption.
Right, that was years ago.
Yes.
But, yeah, these two parcels, they
It's
did
not.
not own. No.
Okay.
And the other place, it says 0 Brook Street, Mary. I wish, I don't have a picture of that one. So would we be okay if we were to table these items until the next meeting and place them onto the agenda?
I spoke to the assessor.
Yeah.
She said that the value that's shown on there is gonna be drastically reduced because she actually went out and walked it. And
Yeah.
in fact, there is a stream through it, which is one of the reasons why Conservation was interested in it.
Okay.
And she had said to me that she did not see a problem with the town retaining that if Conservation would want it, because it's not something we would really be able to do anything with.
Okay.
Or anybody would.
So,
The one on Brook Street.
yeah, the one on Brook Street is what she's talking about. So I would,
It's the one that had the test well on it,
did it have a test well on it, Mary?
I don't know for sure.
next to the Indian Head Brook.
I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
Well, there isn't 400 feet around the well, unless the town takes land. So I wouldn't want to see it be sold, but just the same, you never know what the town might need in 50 years.
So if we could, I would entertain a motion to table these items till the next meeting. Mike, if you could remind
So
me,
moved.
remind me to invite
Second.
Mr. Phil Clemens. Motion has been made and seconded to table these items for the next meeting.
Donnie Landers used to own that property
Yeah, it
Right.
says it on it. It says it on the ticket.
Who did?
on Brook Street.
PA Landers.
Oh, Skip Landis.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion further? All right, all those in favor of
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, Mary. Table it till next time. And you gotta remind ourselves to contact Phil. I apologize to Phil Clemens. That takes care of our old business, and moving up the ladder now to the new business, we have notice of public information meeting for the Route 14 McQuon Reconstruction Project. And I'm going to read just the paragraph, location. A public information meeting will be held by the Hanson Board of Selectmen and the Hanson Planning Board in collaboration with Environmental Partners Incorporated, 1900 Crown Colony Drive, Suite 402, Quincy, Mass. 02169, to discuss the proposed Route 14 and McQuon Street reconstruction project in Hanson. It will be held at Hanson Town Hall, Selectmen's Meeting Room right here, 542 Liberty Street, Hanson, Mass. On Tuesday, December 6th, that's the meeting, at 7 PM. And the purpose of this meeting is to provide the public with the opportunity to become fully acquainted with the proposed roadway project and to solicit comment and input from the public during the design stage of the project, Phase 1 concept development, excuse me. I'll read the proposal real quickly. The proposed project is anticipated to include improvements to traffic circulation and safety, pedestrian and bicycle facilities, and roadway flooding along McQuon Street from Liberty Street, Route 58, and Indian Head Street to the Pembroke Town Line, a distance of approximately 1.2 miles. It will also include reconstruction of the School Street, approximately a quarter mile long, to link pedestrian and bicycle accommodations from the existing Indian Head School, McQuon Elementary School, Hanson Public Library, and sports fields with McQuon Street and its abutting neighborhoods.
And it's supposed to have sidewalks on both sides,
Sidewalks now?
on McQuon Street as well as School Street.
And in case of inclement weather during this time, meeting cancellation announcements will be posted on the town hall website at www.hanson-ma.gov.
I'm just curious, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
because this is a public hearing, do the people who live on McQuon Street,
They all had letters sent to
they
them.
they
all
automatically
been
do get
notified.
notice? Yeah,
Yeah,
because I know there are some that are concerned about that.
That's a requirement, isn't it?
Yeah.
Permitting
Yeah.
president.
I was just curious, yeah.
Yep, oh, that's cool.
Now,
Um,
if the board plans on attending, please let me know and I will post it. If we have, because Dawn's gonna be here anyway.
Right.
So if we have 2 other members, we should at least have it posted.
I'm pretty sure I'll be making it, Mary, but I'll.
Oh,
let you
yeah,
know
I'd like to,
beforehand,
I'll probably be here for that.
Yeah, I probably.
Okay, so I will
the
definitely.
whole
post it.
public's welcome if they want to.
Yeah,
too. Okay,
I'm mostly concerned with the residents on McQuon Street themselves,
sure, they'll have more.
so
say.
that they know what's going on.
But they've got bike paths, I think. Is it on both sides?
Well, there's be
Was it
sidewalks on both sides, there'll be a bike lane on both sides,
sides.
and there'll be 2 11-foot travel lanes in the middle of the road.
Wow, that's terrific. And that takes care of that notice, so the next item we have, is there anything more on it that anybody wants to talk about?
Yeah, just as the highway surveyor, is he notified? Does he know about
Yeah,
that?
he's gonna be there.
He's supposed to be there.
Okay,
He confirmed he would be.
excellent, thank you.
Anything else? Wow, we can hear the wind howling for those folks at home, in their warm homes, I hope. Okay. Next on our agenda is to discuss the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District IT Services Contract. In our iPads, you should have a copy of the IT. It's called under item 2. You should have an IT service, the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Technology Support Contract. And Mike, did you want to speak to this a bit?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I had a conversation, I believe it was last Monday, with the superintendent and various members of her staff in regards to our current agreement with Whitman-Hanson for their support of our IT services. The conversation basically centered around the fact that the demand on their staff has greatly increased in terms of their in-house requirements. I had a conversation, Mary and I had a conversation a few months or so ago with Chad, who is basically oversees those operations, the IT operations.
Chad Peters. Yeah.
Yes, and at that time, he made us aware of the fact that we might be in a position where we needed to bring some additional help in because of the limitations of the school in terms of supporting us. And the conversation that I had last Monday was basically centered around the fact that if they're in a position that they feel they can't really support us to the degree that I think that we were hoping for, that it makes sense, and both sides were in agreement on this, that the town of Hanson move in its own direction on this in terms of either securing a consultant that can come in and provide the support, or consider in our upcoming budget for 2018 to bring on a full-time IT person. We're really not at a point where I'm going to make the suggestion as to how we move forward on that.
Okay.
I'm bringing somebody in actually tomorrow, a consultant, to have a discussion as to what they could do for us and what it would cost us. I am also going to look into what it would cost to bring a full-time person on, or maybe a part-time person. All that being said, it was an agreement between the schools and myself that at this point in time, it is best to part ways, to look at doing something along the lines of what I just mentioned for the town of Hanson going forward. So what I had asked them was to amend their contract that basically runs to the end of this fiscal year, and they were very generous to let us out of the contract. It's been amended to reflect services to only go 9 months at this point, which will allow our office to, again, make the explorations as to what makes sense to bridge the gap to the end of this fiscal year and make a decision on how we want to go forward in the coming fiscal year. They were also generous enough to say if we cannot come to an understanding, if we can't find a solution that makes sense to the town of Hanson, within that additional 3 months, they will extend the contract to the end of the fiscal year, honor the contract going forward.
Okay.
But again, the conversation basically was the fact that they recognized that they really couldn't sustain it going forward, given their staff constraints, given actually, in all honesty, they're looking at the fact that they're going to have some space constraints. They host 2 of our servers right now, physically host 2 of our servers at their location. They are looking at expanding and needing that space. So we're looking at perhaps relocating our equipment to the police department, or maybe even another location if a vendor is willing to do such. It's unfortunate. I don't think it's anyone's fault, as I'm sure the board and the public can understand that technology advances, that the constraints on a person, a constraint on our systems increase year to year. And whereas I am a big proponent, and I thought it was a great idea while it lasted, that we share services with the school, it's really not something that's viable going forward. So the fact that we're aware of it now, as opposed to perhaps a conversation closer to the end of the fiscal year.
Or during a crisis. Yeah.
Exactly. This gives us an awful lot of lead time to figure out what makes the most sense, both in the short term and the long term for the town of Hanson. So what I would ask the board to do is give me permission to sign the reconstituted contract, which again at this point has been rewritten from 12 months to 9 months,
Yep.
with the understanding, the gentleman's agreement that the school will extend that to 12 months and honor the full contract if we're not able to.
So when does it expire?
Technically, the piece of paper we have right now, it expires at the end of the fiscal year. It expires in June the 30th.
Mike, what I didn't understand was on the page 5 of it, it says through March 31st, 2017.
Yeah, that's actually the new contract.
That's the, okay,
Yes, that's the proposed new contract
okay.
that's been amended.
And it also says it can be extended if need be.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so we would extend it to the end of June, which is
If
the
need
fiscal
be,
year.
yes,
right?
I would ask them if
So it's
we
really
have,
the first quarter of next year.
yes, if we didn't have something in place, which I would imagine we would have something in place by then,
Because-
but if we can't,
Because we're re-signing the contract today for December 1st, I guess. Is that right?
yes, they're allowing us out of the
Yeah,
contract.
so
it's
we're
gonna
getting
run-
out of the contract, going into the new contract here for December. So effective December 1st, 2016, this is what it will be until the end of March 2017, with the proposal that we can
Oh, okay.
extend
Well,
it to the
it'll
end
go
of.
from July 2016 until March
Right,
31,
That would be the new,
2017.
yes,
with the
option, if
option
need
to
be.
extend it to
That's
the end
9
of
months, yeah,
June.
July,
Yes.
from July till
Yes,
March
it is,
31st.
yes.
Okay.
And obviously, the cost, the amount that we would be reimbursing the school would be prorated as well.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot that goes on with with one of the technical assistant folks. They do a lot of upgrades, network configuration, Microsoft, support for common Microsoft apps, antivirus products are loaded. I know that we also have some assistance with the audio and video equipment for town meetings. I think probably the biggest cost, Mike, is gonna be moving the servers and equipment, figuring a location, probably for our town. And the police station is a great place, it's logical, so
That
it would be
contract,
protected.
Is that from Whitman?
It would be moved from the Whitman School District, yeah, from high
Well,
school,
from over,
from the high school, I believe, over to the police
oh,
station.
okay.
so that contract, Mr. Chairman, is normally 50 grand a year, and now prorating it, it's 37.5, right, for 9 months?
I believe
Yes.
that's right, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And certainly, I wish to point out that right up to this moment, they've been wonderful in terms of what they have been able to do for us, when they've been able to do it for us. But again, the constraints on their time, given what's going on at the high school, You know, it's limited their availability, and they've been very upfront about that.
Sure.
And,
Do they do
again,
Whitman
it's a,
too?
I was just gonna ask the same
I
question.
think they do Whitman, don't they, Mike?
no, they do not.
No? They don't do
No,
it.
actually, the town of Whitman,
Has their own?
originally it was the two towns that went in with the school in terms of a joint service, and the town of Whitman, actually, if I'm not mistaken, has been out of this particular arrangement for well over 4 or 5 years, if not longer, I believe.
4 or 5 years sounds about right.
So,
Haven't they got their own studio up there in South Avenue?
that's the cable.
That's cable, yeah.
That's the
Oh,
cable.
okay.
Well, that's good to know, because I think this contract was actually supporting, for the town of Hanson, the town hall, fire and police departments, DPW, highway, senior centers, as well as the town libraries, it says, right?
Yeah.
Which is
Lot of
both,
work.
obviously.
And
so.
it's a lot of work. It's become more work as the years have gone on, and, you know, it just really made sense, again, to both sides, in a very amicable way to move in other directions.
All right, thank you, Mike. I'd like to entertain a motion to allow Mike to sign the new contract as proposed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Further discussion? Any more questions?
So you're gonna talk to a couple of companies, you said?
Well, it started to, actually. We've got somebody coming in tomorrow to meet with a couple of different department heads to give us, you know, their thoughts on what they might be able to do for the town. Again, I'm also exploring whether or not we have any interest in trying to bring an individual in, at least, and again, it would have to be, it'd have to be contractual at this point, because we're not in a position, obviously, because I don't believe that we actually have an IT director position in the town of Hanson. So I'd have to bring them in as a consultant, and then we'd create a job description, have it voted at town meeting, and,
Figure out what that would cost.
and figure out what it would cost, yeah. I mean,
gonna be
those,
more than
those people,
50,000.
those people are not inexpensive. I mean, they
I
demand
agree with you on
a
that.
reasonable salary, so.
Full-time.
Yeah.
But it would be something that we would need to go through town meeting to have that position created and voted and funded. And so it's going to take a little bit of work. And again, the conversation that I just related to the board only took place, not this Monday, but the past Monday. So we're working on it. But again, to the point where we've got somebody coming in tomorrow to start the conversation in terms of a potentially consultant, a firm, to support us. And we'll do whatever makes sense for the town going forward, both in terms of service, in terms of cost.
Bless you.
Okay, so we haven't voted on it yet, I believe.
Not yet.
We've motioned,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
on the
been
table.
seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Get the green light, Mike, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And next item on our agenda is to update on the Whitman-Hanson Cable Access Agreement.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my only real update on that is the fact that we provided the Board of Selectmen with the latest iteration that came back from Attorney Bill Solomon of the agreement. I've been trying, he and I have been trying to have a conversation. We for some reason, we continue to miss each other. There is one thing in particular that he expressed to me he wanted to discuss. I've looked over, obviously, as I've told the board in the past, I've made some changes to it. I've written up my recommendation edits, and he's added a few things. I'm comfortable with what I added. But I wanted to make sure the board knew where it stood. I wanted to make sure the board was aware of what it currently looks like. I'm certainly interested in any feedback from the board that I can bring back to Attorney Solomon and to the Cable Access Group. So that's basically it, Mr. Chairman. It's presented to you guys. Anything you want to give back to me doesn't need to take place within a meeting. You can just email me your thoughts, and we'll try to incorporate whatever you'd like in the further conversations. I hope to have this done before the end of the calendar year. There's no reason why it wouldn't be.
I noticed you moved some of the dates up, Mike, so instead of 10 days to be noticed, 5 days. That's pretty good.
And I
Obviously
think we've
some
made some reasonable changes.
Requests. And I think, I saw the one, a copy of the videotape, and you got it crossed out now, you put
Yeah.
DVD, yeah, so Those are good changes. So wherever you've crossed it out, I imagine those are your changes and in the blue color?
Yeah, and a great deal of that was really just updating it from what was there, I guess, at this point, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Do we, Mr. Chairman, does
Mr. Young.
does Whitman have the similar, I'm assuming Whitman has a similar agreement, right?
I believe,
Because we both use the same studio, and the same personnel over there.
I thought they did. The last time I read the original contract, way back when Arlene was here, I think they did.
Building, I mean, Whitman's involved, but it's.
Yeah, they would have to.
It's an agreement between Hanson and.
Mike.
Hanson Cable, and then Whitman has an agreement.
I'm pretty sure they do. Mike, would I be right? Mr. Young has a question in terms of, does the town of Whitman have the same type of agreement?
Yeah,
So when you do this agreement, you give it to Frank to look at?
yeah, Frank looks at it, yes.
Okay. Because this is an agreement between Whitman, Hanson, and the Whitman Hanson Cable Access, or no?
No, Whitman has its own agreement, but Whitman has, because Whitman actually owns the building,
All right, yep.
that's their degree of
We
involvement,
use it.
and we use it, you know.
Okay. Gotcha. So what are you looking for, Mike? Just
Nothing
a
at
notice
this
on
point,
us?
this is just to notify the board, I'm not
Oh,
looking for any
yeah.
action,
Okay.
other than the fact that, again, if you gentlemen take a look at it, if you so choose, and let me know if you've got any feedback that you want me to try to incorporate.
Thank you.
I just,
Any other?
as we go forward with these sorts of contracts, I want to make sure that I'm not dropping these things on the board and saying, well, here it is, please approve it. I'd like to have you gentlemen involved, you know, an appreciable amount of involvement as we go forward with these things.
Well, I think it's pretty good. I like the way you've incorporated the changes in the different fonts and color so that we recognize them. All right. Is there a certain time frame you need any of our changes by, or no?
Well, if you could get back to me before the next meeting.
Okay.
As I had mentioned, I'd like to get this over and done with and before the board for signature. Probably not on the 13th, but, you know, at the next available meeting.
Okay. Mr. Mitchell?
Do we know did they fill the position over there of,
Nope.
they have no?
Not to my knowledge,
I
no.
thought- It's funny you should ask that. I saw Kevin Tachi the other day, and I asked him is he the new director? Because he seems to be doing just about everything over there.
Kevin does a great job.
He does, yeah. And I said, no, they haven't filled it, they filled it yet.
I saw that it was,
He'd like it, he liked the job, but,
I don't like it.
I saw that it was advertised, too. It was in the paper. I did see.
oh, was it in the paper?
It was in the Whitman Hanson
Yeah.
Express, if I'm not mistaken. I thought I recall seeing it there. I've seen advertisements of them telling us that there's meetings and so forth, yeah.
Well, if I had a vote, I would definitely vote for Kevin. I think he does a good job
He
over there.
does. All right, thank you, Mike. Let's move on to on our agenda. We next have the discussion on the vote of the Regional Animal Control Agreement, which is item 4 on your iPads. In front of you, you should have, and it states the town of Whitman, Hanson, and Abington Animal Control Services. This was the original agreement, is that correct, Mike?
Yes.
And we are moving away from this now?
Yes, I feel like I'm the bearer of bad tidings this evening in terms of regional agreements, and as I mentioned before, I'm certainly a proponent of them when they make sense. Unfortunately, this is also another instance that we've run into where the workload has basically surpassed the ability of the staff of the agreement. I had a meeting several weeks ago with both the town administrators of Whitman and Abington, and we basically came to that conclusion that either we go in our separate directions, or you know, we give more funding to bring more people on to support the expanding needs of the three communities. And at least in terms of the town of Hanson, I had made the determination that the amount of money that we currently fund that position, we fund into that contract, with perhaps the same amount, if not a little more, we could fund our own person here in the town of Hanson.
Right.
And the town of Whitman, who is the driver on this contract, they were courteous enough to say that they would certainly entertain and not have a problem with us walking away from this contract with just a little bit of notice. What I would ask the board to do is vote for, again, for me to break the contract, and I would ask the board to hire an interim animal control officer, who I believe you have some information on that gentleman.
I did not get it.
Oh, I
thought
put it in their boxes.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
His resume?
Yeah, we have it.
we got it, Mr. Ronald.
Put it in my box.
You had a copy of it.
And you thought he
Oh,
was
I did.
sleeping.
Copies.
And
I've been haranguing the chief, looking for it.
that's
Yeah, I
right.
know it was on my desk. I thought you could put it on my desk.
No.
So we're looking, so the gentleman's name is Mr. Ron Clark, and he would be the interim animal control officer, right?
Yes, yes, and what I would ask the board to do is actually two votes. I would ask the board to allow me to inform the town of Whitman officially that we are, I hate to say it this way, but basically breaking the contract. But again, they're all right with it. And I would ask the board to give me permission, or not give me permission, but I would ask the board to appoint Mr. Clark as the interim animal control officer. What we will do, going into the budget season, is we will breathe life back into what I believe you had, an old animal control officer just for the town of Hanson. We will propose what would be the appropriate amount of money to fund that, and we will put that out, as we would with any position. We'll put that out we'll post it for anyone to put in for.
So,
But for now, just to get us from, actually, what I'm gonna ask is the vote to be effective December the 7th, the appointment effective December the 7th.
okay.
We will have Mr. Clark fill that role from that time until June the 30th.
Okay.
And in the spring, we'll go through the process of posting the position and moving forward with a permanent animal control officer just for the town of Hanson.
Work on the funding and the budgeting.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So he would be paid now on each call,
Yes,
right?
Commission
That he
pays.
goes out and does, and the animal control officer not only obviously picks up the dead animals along the streets that may be hit from whatever, but they also deal with issues with maybe missing dogs.
and
some
bites and
stuff like that.
complaints and.
And complaints, yes,
Barking dogs.
which, all right,
I make a motion to allow Mr. McHugh to terminate the contract based on his amicable agreement with the other two towns involved in it and move forward.
Second.
motion has been made and seconded, further discussion? All those in favor? Aye?
Thank you.
What do we do?
Bill, do you
Mr.
want to
Chairman?
make a motion to, for Mr. Clark?
Yes, I'd make a motion that we appoint Ron Clark. I think he's well-known to most all of us in the town as a police officer and other things that he has done as the interim dog officer, and have him come in at maybe our next meeting if it involves a swearing in of that position.
Effective the 7th.
Effective
Okay,
December, yeah.
December 7th?
Yes.
Yes, to take effect December 7th.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, further discussion. Did you want to say something, Bruce?
What happens to the appointments of the other two individuals that we have? 'Cause
There's
we-
only one.
What do you mean, the other two people who were working in this contract, in the original contract?
Yeah,
Well,
the,
because we break the contract, they're no longer serviced by this town,
all right.
right? Isn't that right?
Yes.
That would be the legal,
They didn't work for us, sometimes they worked for Whitman.
well,
Well,
they
they would
actually
Well, they-
try.
Yeah,
Technically-
I believe the town would have appointed.
we did appoint
Yes,
them.
yes. But
The
I believe.
dog
that the-
officer and the assistant dog officer.
Yes.
In the town.
Yeah,
But it's tied to the
Yes,
contract, right?
Yeah.
I believe
It's a
that the
good
fact
question.
that we're walking away.
so I mean, if you
in saying
terminate the
that.
contract, I'm
Terminating the
assuming
contract.
that the appointment for those two people is automatically terminated.
Yes,
So
Okay.
then you don't have to go through any kind of process of
Notification.
notification.
No.
Well, the part-time person had resigned anyway, so that was, the
That's-
assistant was open anyway.
Oh, okay.
So it would have only been one. Thank you, Mary. We didn't vote on that, did we?
We did not.
motioned and seconded.
Nope.
Further discussion? That was a good question. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Welcome aboard, Mr. Clark,
thank
to
you
this
again,
position.
gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that takes care of new business and the appointments. I guess we're ready to move to the one-day liquor licenses at Camp Kawani. I will read them as such. Ms. Gail Fusco and Hanson, Saturday, December 3rd, from 6 to 10 p.m. As a Christmas party. Sarah Charrington, Hanson, Saturday, December 10th, from 2 to 7 p.m., Christmas party. And Donna Anderlinis, or I'm sorry if I've hacked that name. Hanson, Sunday, December 11th, from 12 to 4 p.m., Christmas party. Wow, that's terrific.
Motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, that's read. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 5-0, Mariano. One-day liquor licenses. Next, we move to the town administrator's report.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. A few things that I want to update the board on. The first of which is I wanted to update the board on some of the activities at 1101 Main Street. I brought it up at the last meeting, and I believe Selectman Howard might have had some comments or concerns in regards to some of the water flows and whatnot. And I wanted to confirm that that both the conservation / planning agent as well as the Board of Health agent have had ongoing conversations with the individual who owns that property. As Selectman Howard pointed out, they do agree that it's a difficult site with a lot of obstacles and constraints, and that it has been recommended that a soil analysis to determine the suitability of the soils for development and investigation of what type of and amount of discharge is coming from the 30-inch drainage pipe and how this will impact the full build-out of the site, that is going forward as well. All that being said, the work that that our people anticipate, our staff anticipate, would probably delay the development or push development back probably to the spring at the very earliest. So all the due diligence is being done. I want to make sure the board was aware of that. It certainly is a legitimate concern in terms of what goes on down on Main Street. So just an update on where things stands, and this information is recent as a couple of days ago. I wanted to report as well to the board that in addition to the conversation I had with the schools regarding the IT contract, that I also raised for the first time the issue of revisiting the regional agreement that we have with the schools. The superintendent of schools had recommended and is reaching out to an organization called MAS, which is the Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools, to ask whether they'd be willing to come in and take a look at the agreement and try to give an outside opinion on what should be changed, what should be updated, which I personally think is a good idea. So I want to let the board know that finally that conversation did take place, that they are going to get back to me in terms of what Mars has to say as to what sort of help they can give us. So I will keep the board updated as this moves forward, but it has started.
Thank you, Mike.
The board may or may not be aware of the fact that yesterday I was in federal court. It basically was an issue that did not directly involve the town of Hanson. However, there was a slip and fall in front of the post office down in Mount Ponset, and I was contacted by the federal attorneys that are defending the post office, defending the federal government on this particular case. My role in this, originally I'd given this written information, which was certified and
Excuse me.
bless you. But for some odd reason, the judge actually wanted me to come in, and so they subpoenaed me, and I went in. I gave my 5 minutes worth of testimony, but I did represent the town of Hanson, so I want to make sure the board and the residents know that, you know, I represented the town in a federal case. And again, there was no exposure to us. It was just really, to give information that the federal government was interested in having presented in this case. So I don't know where it's going to go, but we did our duty.
Excellent.
I have posted, after the board declared the highway truck, the broken down highway truck as surplus at the last meeting, I did post that on Municipid. the same service that I use to sell the motorcycle and the boat for the Council on Aging, the donation of the Council on Aging. So hopefully, I believe that posting will end the end of next week, and I will have some good information to give the Board of Selectmen in terms of being able to get some money for a piece of equipment that we no longer have any use for.
Where does that money go, Mike, on the sale of the?
That would actually just be received into the general fund as unanticipated revenues, whereas the other two items that we sold, they were donated particularly to the Council on Aging, and that money is going back, has been journaled back to the Council on Aging. I would like to, at the next Selectmen's meeting, which I believe will be on the 13th, I would like the board to entertain an executive session either prior to or afterwards. And it's in line with what I had mentioned a little earlier about contracts and the fact that I'd like the Board of Selectmen to be involved to an appreciable degree in going forward with any contracts. As the board is well aware, we are starting to enter in conversations with all of our unions to hopefully put together well, at this point it'd be a 2-year deal because it would encompass the year we're in right now. And I did come across some,
No,
yeah,
the year we're in right now, we have contracts for.
yeah, I thought that,
We just have a 1-year contract
Oh,
with
okay,
everybody, so
all right.
the contracts coming up would be
all
3-year
right,
contracts.
all right. I
It
thought
would
we
be a
were gonna
3-year
roll- thought we were
contract.
gonna roll the first, that year into the
Because the
two.
last time we did it, we only did it for the 1 year.
Yeah, but I thought that was rolled, but,
No,
okay,
it's all right.
so
It seemed to
corrected.
go by
but-
fast, the year, no kidding.
But that being said, obviously, we're going into conversations to have something more than a 1-year, a 3-year going forward at this point. But I did find some information that had been promulgated probably the beginning of this calendar year in terms of what the town would like to see considered, excuse me, in these new contracts going forward. That being said, I would like to sit with the board and get their feelings, if any, in terms of what you might be looking for. And again, we can't really go into it in open session. I would, again, request that the board give me some time on the 13th of December to have those discussions with you, and I want to involve you guys to the degree that it's appropriate moving forward in having these sorts of discussions, so.
Do you guys want to do before or after? We could do, if we do before, could we do 6? Or is that too early? Would an hour be good, Mike, or is that too much?
That might be too much.
So what do you think, 6:30?
Yeah, 6:30.
So on December 13th, which is a Tuesday, 2 weeks from today, we would meet at 6:30 PM. Would you guys be okay with that?
Yeah.
John is writing it down. All right, I think the general consensus is yes.
Okay. Thank you. I want to make sure the board knows that I'm still working on policies and procedures for the camp. It's fairly cumbersome. I'm trying to incorporate all the things that existed in the past, and most of which are worth keeping, as well as putting in some new stuff that the board has expressed an interest in and what I believe needs to be in there. Again, just letting the board know that we continue to work on that, and I hopefully that will be done in time for any new board, any new commission that is appointed by the board. I did reach out to the Hanson Business Group last week. They had a meeting, I believe it was the middle of last week, asking if they could advance 2 names to be considered for appointment to the 200th Anniversary Committee. They did send me 2 names. I have reached out to the Historic Commission, and they are going to consider advancing their names after their next meeting. Hopefully, on this 13th, I will have a group of people that I will ask you to appoint, so we can move forward on that committee.
Okay.
I am taking a look at whether or not in the past, and I don't believe the town of Hanson has availed themselves of itself of this particular opportunity. There's something called a STRAP grant, and that's the Small Town Road Assistance Program. I was successful in both the communities I was working in prior to Hanson in securing, actually in one community, $500,000. In the last community I was in, I believe I got about $100,000. Basically, it's a supplemental grant that's given to towns of a certain size. I have started a conversation with the highway surveyor as to what we could apply, or we could ask for application of such a grant. Hopefully we'll be successful. If a town hasn't availed itself of such a grant in the past, generally they're successful in the first go-around, so hopefully I can augment our coffers a bit in terms of some of additional road work we can do.
Sure. I know that we've got a lot of, I've had some people call and complaints on the, some of the basins, like, you know what I'm saying? Some of them have cones in them that, I imagine the money could be used for that,
Yeah,
right?
certainly.
Right?
Oh, most certainly. It's fairly wide-ranging. Further updates in terms of the Camp Kawani septic system. The listing, the posting was sent to the Central Register. It should be listed on December the 7th. There will be a pre-bid site meeting on December the 15th. Bids are anticipated to be received, excuse me, on the 22nd of December, with an estimated start date of January the 2nd and a completion date of February the 3rd. So just to keep the board informed that that continues to move forward. An additional update on the Plymouth County Hospital project that has been published. Mary reports that we've already gotten a number of calls as a result of being posted on the Central Register. There is a pre-bid site meeting on the 8th of December. Bids are to be received by the 15th of December. The start date remains projected as December the 26th, and substantial completion date is mid-March of 2017.
And that's tearing down the building?
Yep.
That's terrific.
That's good stuff.
Yep.
The board approved at a previous meeting a reduction in rate for the Watershed Alliance, Watershed Action Alliance, to host an event on March the 16th, 2017, at the camp.
Yes.
I reached out to them, as I believe I may have sent an email to the board to this effect. I reached out to them and asked whether or not they would allow board members and/or staff to attend at no cost. They have graciously agreed that anyone from the water department or from planning or conservation will certainly be allowed to attend. They've also, as I think I mentioned, they've also extended that invitation to the Board of Selectmen. So I know at least one board member, I think it was Selectman Young, had reached out to me and asked me what the date was. So I wanted to confirm the date was the 16th of March of next year. It's an all-day event. I plan on being there at least at the beginning
Yep.
to greet the participants in this event.
Sure.
They reached out to us within the last few days or so, asked us for a high-def copy of the town seal, which they have incorporated in all their advertisement, all their publicity in terms of this particular event. So they are
By the way,
they are reciprocating and giving us appropriate exposure or thanks or what have you for what the board graciously did for them.
and you're right, Mike, because I think at the last meeting, we wanted to make sure that they weren't making like a profit on this, right?
And that,
You know what I'm
yes,
saying?
and I believe I sent that information
You did.
to the board, their response, it's a break even.
It is.
I wanted to mention to the board, and I think I brought this before the board several months ago, but I wanted to bring it up one last time because I'm about to make the call to National Grid. There is a tree located near where we planted the new Christmas tree and the War Memorial that I believe, and speaking with our facilities manager, we believe should be taken down. It is interfering with the electric lines, the telephone lines, and what have you. My concern at the time, and it's waned considerably, but I wanted to, before I make the call, I wanted to mention it one more time. I don't believe that this tree was planted in memory of anyone. I don't believe it has any significance historically to the town. I've reached out to various, the town, the Historic Commission, and others. I have not found any feedback to say it was planted 200 years ago for X, Y, and Z. But again, just to be extra cautious, because we take the tree down, well, the tree's down, I can't put it back up. If the board has any reservations about that particular tree, and I believe I sent the board a picture of it, and I certainly can point it out to any member who wants to look at, who wants to see it, you know, in the course of the next week or so, I would like to go to National Grid. It is interfering with the lines. I'm certain that they will take it down at no cost for us. I'd also like to have it taken down before the 17th of December, which is the tree lighting date. So if the board has any feedback whatsoever, please give that to me in the next couple of days. I'll reach out to National Grid before the weekends and try to arrange the removal of that tree.
And that's the one that's closest to the town hall, not the one that we've recently planted, right?
Yeah,
Make sure
it's,
of that.
there's actually, I think, 3 of them.
It's a maple tree, right?
It's a maple.
Oh,
yeah.
the maple.
It's a maple tree,
Oh,
yes,
okay,
it's
okay.
not one of the
I thought it was one of the
evergreens.
evergreens, yeah.
No.
Mr. Burridge's
Okay,
maple
okay.
trees.
It's right along as you come up the front of the town hall.
Okay.
Curve.
It's
one
in
of
the
those trees
middle.
right
It's actually the one in the middle of the 3 trees lined up there.
Okay.
And it's growing into the other trees, and it's just, again, if it's something that doesn't have any significance,
Well, I hear
it
you.
probably makes sense to remove it.
Is that something that needs to be discussed with the tree warden, but for, or just make him aware of it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I've had that discussions with the tree warden.
Oh, okay.
I do want to mention, I'm ready to put the piece of paper, that we did receive information that we wanted to congratulate the Hanson Pee Wee football team. They
Oh,
won
yeah.
the division
Yes, they won the
Super Bowl game
championship. the Super
against
Bowl.
Whitman by a whopping score of 28-0 on the 20th of November,
Oh, no, they
under
didn't.
the coaching of Mr. Bill Frazier. So we certainly offer them our congratulations.
I saw that in the paper. Right, Trace? Yeah.
And the last thing that I would like to inform the board, I know they certainly have interest in this, and we may have touched upon it earlier this evening, that the advertisement for the director, the recreation director at Camp Kawani, that does close at the end of this week, and I'm happy to report we've got 8 applications, and we have some fairly strong candidates for that position.
good.
So I would ask the board, along those lines, I don't believe that we will have a full board, a full recreation commission constituted within the next couple of weeks or so. So unless the board directs me otherwise, I would like to move forward in bringing these people in and speaking with them and interviewing them. I would like to try to have somebody in place on January the 1st. Again, I seek the board's guidance on how they wish me to move forward on that, but I'm certainly comfortable, if the board is comfortable in moving forward with it on my own for the sake of expediency.
When does it close? The end of?
This week, the end of this week.
This Friday.
Friday.
December
So,
2nd.
how many applications do we have for Recreation Commission at this point?
Oh, members for the commission
We
itself.
have 5, I think you were showing me
I
today.
think, yeah, and I think I came up with like 2 more.
I think there's
So
5, so
maybe,
there's 7?
maybe 7
So
applications.
the ideal situation would be if we could meet briefly next week and appoint, just to appoint the Recreation Commission, then you could actually, they could organize and they could assign a person to sit with him and go through the process, and then,
To sit with Mike?
yeah,
Yeah, I suppose. but-
to go through the process and then come up with a couple of candidates to submit to the newly reconstituted board to appoint, because that would be in line with the town administrator report. Because
Yeah, I know, but
the hiring is supposed to take place
The problem I have
with
with
the
that, Bruce, is
Recreation
that,
Commission.
I hear you. But the problem I have with it, let me just finish what I have to say, then, right? And then
That's the way it's supposed to work.
The problem is we're probably, we're probably gonna expect some input, because we also have a deadline of the 30th, and we're probably gonna get some input from our town attorney on what we got back from that, from the other members that were mentioned. So, Kenny, you want
How
to
does
say?
that-
I was just gonna say, I don't wanna make,
How does that affect the new
I'm sorry?
Recreation Commission?
I don't know.
We're talking about the old Recreation Commission.
I
They're gone.
don't know. Maybe
They're
there's,
gone.
maybe there's something else that's coming up. I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, for me, I don't wanna make any decisions on any recreation members until after this Camp Quaney is completely done and over. so we can move forward. That's just me. So I'm not prepared to make any appointments at our next meeting or next week.
I don't know how that
So
affects.
I would want the town administrator to continue doing the interviews, or continue doing that process, do the interviews and continue on.
Can you explain to me, Kenny, how that affects a new recreation commission? I don't
Because
understand how it affects it.
for me, Bruce, I need everything with Camp Kawani to be behind us and move forward. And I wanna start fresh, nice clean slate. Everything behind us and then start forward, moving forward, getting the camp moving forward like it is now.
But you're
That's
talk-
just me, I'm
you're
only
talking
20% of
about-
a vote.
You're talking about appointing a new recreation commission,
Correct.
you know?
Yep, I'm
You
aware
could-
of that.
you might end up with 2 members from the last board, but the last 2 members are probably weren't even involved in that whole scenario.
I'm not gonna get into that, Bruce.
Well, it's true. I looked at
I
who-
understand, but I'm not gonna get
I
into
looked at who submitted applications, and they had nothing to do with it.
I don't agree with you on that, because personally, I think, again, they made a statement when they resigned. I read the statement again.
I don't
I
see,
don't wanna
I
go
don't
down
see
the
any,
path.
I don't see any of the prior people that resigned even have applications in.
I understand.
They don't.
I'm not going to hurry up and put somebody in just so that we can get somebody in that position, who's probably just gonna probably sit there and allow Mike to just do the interview, you
Why
know?
would you say that?
It's just, you know what,
You got nobody on the last board that's applied, that I can see.
I'm more
You got-
inclined
you
to
got
agree with
five- you
Kenny.
got 5 or 6 or 7 new people that have applied. Put them in place, and let's do it the way that the Town Administrator Act reads. The Town Administrator Act doesn't appoint employees. He recommends appointments to commissions, committees and boards in the town. So why wouldn't you want to go forward with the way that the law reads?
There's nothing, right now, the way I understand it, this board voted and approved to put Mr. McHugh in charge of Camp Kawani and basically act as a recreation commission.
So he's the 7-member Recreation Commission, even for, you're gonna have him actually,
Right now, that's
Do
how.
the appointments?
Yeah, that's
That's how we
what we
voted.
did, I'm pretty sure. I understand your point,
it's not
Bruce.
the way it's supposed to work.
I
I
understand.
mean, I
your-
don't have any problem with him being interim head of the Recreation Department. I do have, and I don't have a problem with him being the personnel manager and being the person who interviews those candidates, but I do have a problem with circumventing the 2007 Town Administrator Act.
I'm not
far as hiring is
I don't, now it's my turn. I don't believe that we're circumventing anything. I think
Well,
we've been,
yeah.
I don't believe we're circumventing anything. This board agreed to put Mr. McHugh in charge until we deal with this incident, with what's going on. And I apologize, but I'm also 20% of the vote, and I'm in agreement with what Kenny's saying. One thing at a time, Bruce. I'm not going to hurry up and put some people into a position simply because we want to hire a recreation commission. I have every confidence in Mr. Mike McHugh,
I
our
have
town
confidence in
administrator.
him too, but that's not the point.
I also have confidence in the fact that we're doing the right thing by holding off and waiting. But that's
I
just
don't
my
see how
opinion.
one has anything to do with another, and nobody's offered me an explanation to change my mind on that either.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I guess aside from the
It's my gut
conversation,
feeling.
the conversation the board is having, moving forward with the commission, perhaps I could offer this, that perhaps the board could appoint someone to go through the interview process with me. And my intention is, if this moves forward, it certainly would come before the Board of Selectmen for any final appointment. It certainly wouldn't be anything, I actually, to Bruce's point, I don't think I could make that sort of a hire arbitrarily, that I would bring it before this board in the absence of a rec commission. But if the board, again, is so inclined, and I certainly welcome it, and the board doesn't necessarily have to do it right now, but I would welcome the assistance of a member of the board through the process.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
we're not the relative body that appoints the Recreation Director.
we are not, Bruce, but we have been placed in an unusual situation.
We don't have to be. All we have to do is
I am-
appoint a new Recreation Commissioner. End of story.
I am not going to place somebody, I'm not gonna put somebody on a recreation commission. Me personally, guys, my position is I'm not gonna hurry up and put somebody into a position just to fill the director's position. I'm
No,
not going
it's
to
the
do that.
point of Recreation Commission to to take over the recreation department, like they're supposed to do.
And I know you're looking for a logical explanation, but sometimes you have to go on gut feeling, and that's what I got. That's my gut feeling. I'm sorry. I can't explain it to you. It's my gut feeling, Bruce. I don't know how you gentlemen feel. If you'd like to act on it, I mean, certainly you're entitled. We're all equal here. Is there any further discussion to it?
On what?
Would anybody entertain a motion to what Mr. McHugh proposed, basically, of allowing somebody from this board to sit with them and do the interview process for the director position? Because we lack the Recreation Commission that we do have, we should have in place.
I'll make a motion that we meet next week and appoint a recreation commission, a new recreation commission. And that a member from that recreation commission be assigned to sit with them, which is the procedure
The
that's always
the
been in
room's
place.
taken next week from the McQuon Street. It's
It's all right.
7:00.
We can meet earlier, can meet at 6:30.
Well, motion has
It's
been
only gonna
made.
take like 10 or 15 minutes.
Motion has been made. Is it seconded? Once, twice. Motion has not been seconded, so therefore we can't move forward with it. So do we wish to make or entertain a motion or how about open for discussion, somebody on this board to sit with Mike on the rec positions interview?
Would any member, if they did that, be in conflict as far as voting on that particular, or a particular candidate?
On that particular person?
Not that person, but anyone that we
That
interview?
would be interview? That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
No, we would always have a member of the Board of Selectmen on the Town Administrator Search Committee.
Mhm.
Yeah, actually, two gentlemen sitting here. Mr. Chairman, if I may offer, if the board is so inclined, again, ideally, we would have somebody in place on January the 1st or thereabout. If the board is so inclined to, and comfortable with waiting until the board reconstitutes at whatever time and whatever fashion it wishes to, a recreation commission, I'm comfortable with that as well. Again, it's really up to the pleasure of the board how they wish to move forward. I just know it's something that the board wishes to get done, and I'll do it in whatever way the board wishes. I'm not married to anything. I would just like to,
What's the last day that you can apply for that position?
the end of this week.
Friday, December 2nd.
2nd of December.
So you could lose one of those people between now and then.
There's certainly
That
that possibility.
Waiting
Yes.
5 or 6 weeks. I
That's,
think you're taking a
yes,
risk.
that is possible.
I would volunteer to do that if the board so desires.
I think that would be, I think, Bill, I think that'd be a terrific
Bill would
idea.
be perfect.
Gentlemen? Why do we need to put to a motion to allow?
Probably preferable.
Okay, why don't we put to a motion, I'd entertain a motion to allow Bill Scott to participate in the interview process with Mr. Mike McHugh as acting Recreation Commission, so to speak, I guess, for the new director's position up at Camp Kawani.
So moved.
Motion has been made. Do I hear it seconded? Yes.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion? To put it to a vote, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstain?
Nick,
You can vote for
No, no,
yourself.
no.
You always vote for yourself.
Well, I didn't know if we're voting for yourself.
That means you're always 1-0.
Yeah.
All right, then,
Thank you,
gentlemen,
Bill,
we'll
for
move
stepping up.
forward under that direction. Thank you.
I'd hate to lose somebody because they're
No,
waiting
understood.
6 weeks.
Understood. I wanted to offer all sorts of, any possible alternatives
Can I ask a
or
question, Mr.
options to
Chairman?
the board.
When
Mr.
are we
Young,
gonna have a
sure.
final revised report from, on the investigation? How
When,
does that stand? Wasn't those people who had a problem with it supposed to come in and tell us why they, if they had evidence that certain passages within that report should be changed? They
So
were
you-
gonna come in with something?
so
Well,
Mr.
what
Young
did
has a
happen with
question about the report. provided by, that they were supposed to have due by the 30th?
Yeah, by tomorrow. There was information provided to town council, and he's reviewing that, and I believe town council will be before the board at the next meeting on December the 13th to advise the board as to his recommendations and findings.
Very good.
Excellent.
All right, that's good.
Anything, okay, next on our agenda, moving on to the approval of the meeting minutes. One is for the February 9th, 2016. This is for the regular meeting and executive session. I believe those are,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of February 9th, 2016,
Second,
the regular meeting and executive session.
motion has been made and
Now,
seconded.
Mr. Chairman, prior to that, and I apologize, prior to that motion going forward, may I suggest that Selectman Mitchell amend that motion to say, to approve but not release the executive session minutes? And I would recommend that that motion also carry forward to any motion on the minutes of the 9th.
Would you-
Yes, I-
Just so
I
we can
withdraw
review
my
them.
motion
And restated as,
and restate it as approve the meeting minutes for February 9th, 2016, regular session, and not release the executive session minutes.
Approve
To
it,
approve,
not
approve, but
release.
not
Approve it,
release.
not
Yeah.
second,
motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
aye.
5-0.
I'd like to make a motion to approve August 19th, 2016, regular session minutes, and not release executive session minutes for the 9th, but approve them. Oh, bless you.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
approve but not release.
August 9th, yes.
Approve but not release
Approve
the
but not
executive
release.
session.
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. 5-0, Mary.
Yeah, and the reason I say that, Mr. Chairman, is just with executive session minutes, we always like to review them to make sure that before they're released to the public, they won't have any negative impact. If there's any outstanding issues that were discussed within that executive session, that everything has been concluded before we release those.
That's a good call.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Those were difficult minutes. I remember them.
I just read them
Not the
again.
executive session, but even the regular ones. Mary, you were sorely missed, I think, on that day.
Yeah, fine.
Hey, I did my best.
You too, Mike. You wrote what you did on them, absolutely. Moving on to committee reports. First report is the Mont Ponce Pond Committee, Mr. Howard.
it's, the Mont Ponce Pond report last week was cyanobacteria count was way under 70,000 cells per million. And the week before was the same, so it's been 2 weeks now. So now it's a question on whether or not Brockton's gonna start taking water or not.
Thank you, Donnie. Hopefully this rain for the next few days will help.
I hope they don't take it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my personal, I just don't wanna see any cyanobacteria at all going into Silver Lake, because
It's what we,
eventually it's gonna catch up with it, and Brockton's gonna lose Silver Lake, so. That's just my opinion,
yep. Thank
but it's
you.
drinking water for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Thank you, Donnie. Next we
Excuse
have,
me, just one question. Mr. Howard, we just got that information from the department, the DEP, with regards to, they're gonna hold a meeting in Halifax.
Right,
on
that's in my book, I'm gonna be there.
December 15th,
Yeah.
to discuss the ponds. and
That's
the-
right, I hope that they aren't gonna take water till that meeting,
Okay.
Yeah, Joe.
but I don't know.
They're gonna discuss the phosphorus loading and different things of that.
That's right.
Yeah,
I remember that. That was at the Halifax Town Hall, right? Bill?
yes.
December 15th?
It's 7 o'clock, isn't it?
7, I
It
think.
says 6:30, but.
6:30, yeah.
This note here.
Thank you.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
I'm
it's
sure
a
you're
good.
aware of
No,
point.
it's
You're right.
good.
It's a good meeting. I remember that, I remember the email on that. Next, we have the Indian Head and McQuon Priority Repair Committee. Mr.
I have a
Young.
very short report tonight. My report is that I have no report.
All right, that's cool.
You cheated because Bob did it.
Yeah, okay. Nothing to report. Everything's going well there. Okay, Highway Building Committee, Mr. Scott?
We haven't held any recent meetings. I plan to call a meeting to discuss possibly putting with the permission of the board or whatever, to put a display up at the town hall, similar, the same one that we had up at the town meeting, for informational purposes as to how we may want to move forward on the highway barn if that is approved and goes forward. And those pictures will give the folks an idea. There'll be some of the brochures available also if people care to take them.
Maybe we can get it on the website too.
Thank you, Bill.
Other than that, no further.
Next, we have the final Plymouth County Hospital Committee update.
I think Michael covered that already,
Yes. On the RFP.
because that's information I'm gonna pass on to the members tomorrow night.
I'll give you a printed copy of that.
Oh, for tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I paraphrased some of the stuff that I had. I gave you
Yeah.
everything that I had.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Good night.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.